Moving on to item 11, request for desert bighorn sheep from Utah Division of Wildlife Resources. Wildlife Staff Specialist Mike Cox for possible action. Commission will be asked to approve a request from the state of Utah for desert bighorn sheep for release in Utah.
Thank you, Chairman. Mike Cox, Nevada Department of Wildlife. We've got Anith Adi, who's the Big Game Program Coordinator for Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, here to speak about their request. And I'll let him speak, and then again, I can ask questions about how our sheep herds are doing and our opportunity to provide those to them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Anith Adi, Utah Division of Wildlife Resources. First of all, I'd like to thank this board for allowing me to come in front of you and ask you for the division of the Department of Wildlife of Nevada to give us some sheep. We've had very good cooperation in the past with Nevada. We've gotten sheep from them on several occasions and put them in areas where they're thriving. We would like to basically ask this board and the department to, for at least to do it in kind of a stepwise fashion, maybe a 3-year approach where we would get a total of 100 sheep over 3 years. As they're available, obviously. I've talked to Mike on several occasions, and they do have some herds in the state that are starting to have surplus, and we have areas where we have either void habitat or we could supplement populations where we could use some bighorn sheep, and basically our statewide plan outlines these locations based on habitat suitability and other issues, including the proximity to any sheep, domestic sheep or goats. So all of our transplant sites have gone through our wildlife board and have been approved through a process to make sure that they're going to go in a place where they're neither going to harm the habitat nor harm the industry of livestock grazing. So with that, I could take any questions that you may have.
Anybody on the commission have any questions? Commissioner Drew?
Just to clarify, this is an initial request for 30, which would be this year, as I understand it?
Well, what we'd like to do is make it for 100 over 3 years. So it would vary depending on availability on an annual basis. So the total would be 100.
Okay. And then are you looking at new introductions or augmentations?
Yeah, so in our statewide plan, we've got several places where we've identified as places we want to augment, and then a couple of areas within the same unit where we want to start new populations. And most, if not all of these, will go on the Kapowitz unit where we already have probably east, west, and Escalante about 300 to 400 total sheep. But it's a large area with a lot of void habitat that they haven't moved into. So we want to, encourage the use of these habitats by the new sheep that we would be putting in there. So some will be starting new. I guess it wouldn't be a total population, but a subpopulation. Some of it would be augmenting some of those populations.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, I would assume that Mr. Moore would have, questions about, domestic sheep, but it sounds like that you've addressed that.
The way our process works is we put through a statewide sheep plan, and on it we have our transplant sites. And usually the way we deal with it is we don't transplant sheep into anywhere where they're likely to be in contact with domestic sheep. I mean, obviously there is a chance with any transplant that will happen, but we try to at least have, in the plan that we wouldn't, and if they do come in contact, that's totally on us. The folks in the sheep industry have nothing to do with it because we're putting the sheep where we're putting them. So.
Okay, so your plan for where the wild sheep are going to go has that been out for public comment though?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's on the Kapowitz unit. There's several transplant sites within that unit where we'd like to put them, and all of those have been through our statewide plan.
Okay, Commissioner Raines.
Thank you. Maybe it's more a question for Department Wildlife, or maybe is I see here there's a suggestion to give 30, but we had a request for 100 over 3 years. So why did we come up with a suggestion for 30, or are there alternative suggestions? And then it also go with like, where are these coming from, and can we spare them? I've heard the answer, I think, before, but
There was just a slight miscommunication between us and them. At first, we really hadn't talked about how many. In many of our requests, for example, first time when Jim Stevenson came, we gave him 3 years to get the 100, and just because of resource limitations, and we had some animals we wanted to transplant ourselves until we were ready. So I think maybe we thought maybe only 30 would be good enough, but Anise was talking to me a couple of weeks ago after the agenda was set and said, you know, what about trying to extend this over several years? I said, you know, it makes sense to come once and say, look, we've got a statewide plan, several release sites are identified, and as long as we have the availability, you know, I support their request to establish that number over X number of years. I know that the last time we gave sheep, we gave some sheep from kind of a mid-elevation population, took them out of the Fairview Peak area, and I think they may be looking at some more higher elevation populations. So, you know, we've got herds at low elevation and high elevation that we certainly want to try to thin out over the next 5 years. So we have some sites that we could certainly thin out, and yeah, I think we've got plenty of sheep to provide them. We certainly want to try to accommodate ourselves first. We do have, you know, a stipulation that if we have a reintroduction site that's online and ready to go, that takes precedence over giving sheep to anyone else. But if we just have augmentation sites and we can accommodate them and us, then we don't see a problem with that biologically.
Mike, I was talking to Pat Cummins, just for information for everybody, an endowed biologist down in Vegas, and he said the counts on the muddies were out of this world, and you know that there's just a ton of sheep in there. And is that a potential site, or is that not a mid-elevation group of sheep that you can draw from?
Well, yeah, we took not as many as we wanted out of there this last October, but I want to say it was about 40, I can't remember, somewhere in there, and we'll be definitely taking some more out of there next year. That may not suit the habitat and the climate and the weather regime that Utah's looking for, but sometimes beggars can't be choosy either. So
we took River Mountain sheep and put them up on Jefferson. They seemed to adapt all right.
We gave them a few months to adapt with that drop net in July, but yeah, it's amazing ecological story that how elastic those bighorn were and how adaptive they were.
Commissioner Howell?
Mike, is this gentleman bringing cash also?
Yes, as they have, you know, all the captures, I've been working with them since I've been in this position. They pay all the net gun costs and any supplies that are needed for biological sampling. So yes, we get to join in and enjoy the time, but they pay the bill at the end of the day.
Good.
Commissioner Ray?
They don't happen to have any disease-resistant Rocky Mountain bighorns over there by any chance?
No, unfortunately,
Just checking.
Yeah, they had some disease events the same time we had our rubies from Humboldt.
Oh, well, you can dream.
Anybody else have any questions? Any for commission comment, questions, discussion? Okay, take it out to the public. Any public comment on the Desert Bighorn sheep transplant to Utah? Okay. Oh, one question. Come on up.
record, this is Adam Bronson representing Utah Foundation for North American Wild Sheep. Just wanted to echo what's been said today by Anise. We're heavily partners with them, and being neighbors to Nevada to the east of you, sharing the Nelsoni subspecies, you're kind of one of the states that we always look to first when we, knowing that some of your sheep populations are doing so well. Yes, we'll be willing to step up and help fund, along with the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, all capture efforts, personnel cost, net gunning cost, everything involved in that, and looking forward to that as we have done many times before. So just want to appreciate the Commission for at least entertaining us in the agenda item, and thank you for your consideration in this.
Okay, bring back to Commission. Any other questions? Vice Chairman Robb, would you like to?
I'll make a motion, and I want to make sure that it says 30 sheep this year, but can I make my motion to 30 sheep this year and up to 100 sheep over 3 years as requested by Utah?
I think you can, because there's no, the actual agenda item, that's just informational that you're looking at there. The actual agenda item doesn't say the number of sheep.
Second.
And so I don't think there's a problem with that.
I think that's fine.
Okay. We got to go. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further comment from the commissioners? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay.